Here we go.
Is Kevin Durant a great player? He is, and he's been stifled by Boston.
And I was going to go there.
And let me tell you something. I don't want to badmouth the dude, but see, you guys always talk about that championship stuff. I try to tell y'all, all these bus riders, they don't mean nothing to me.
Charles Barkley was always right about Kevin Durant. And this Lakers versus Rockets series is starting to make that bus rider conversation look less like hate and more like a warning everybody ignored. Because Chuck has been saying the same thing for years. If you were not driving the bus, do not walk around acting like you carried the whole championship. If you were riding the bus, cool, take your ring, enjoy your moment, but do not talk like you were the engine behind everything. And right now, watching Kevin Durant in Houston with all the pressure on him to be the guy, it is getting harder and harder to pretend Barkley was just being disrespectful.
If you ain't driving the bus, don't walk around talking about you a champion.
Because this is where the difference shows up. When you are the bus driver, all that pressure is on you. If the team loses, you get blamed. If the offense gets stuck, you have to fix it. If the defense sends two at you, you cannot panic. You have to settle the group down, make the right pass, punish the coverage, and keep everybody believing. That's a different animal. And what we keep seeing from Durant after the Golden State years is the same pattern over and over again. Durant the scorer is unbelievable. Durant the weapon is elite. Durant the front-seat driver who can lead a team through playoff chaos, that is where the questions keep getting louder. Here's the part nobody is talking about. This Lakers matchup was supposed to be Houston's chance to shut all of that noise down. The Lakers were shorthanded. Their two best offensive pieces were not even there. On paper, Houston should have looked at this series and said, okay, we handle business, we move on, and Kevin Durant proves he can still be the centerpiece of a serious playoff team. But instead, Game 1 starts with KD unable to go because of the knee bump at practice, and Houston comes into it like we should still beat this undermanned Lakers team anyway. And that mindset gave LA hope. That was the first mistake.
He's just not on the bus.
No, but what has happened when he was driving the bus?
Well, he's never just...
No, what was happening when he was driving the bus?
He lost to the finals.
Yeah, okay, he did. And then when he was in Oklahoma City again...
Then KD comes back, and now you're thinking, okay, worst case, Houston gets the split. Durant is back, the Rockets regain control, and the series gets normal again. But that didn't happen either. The Lakers, with LeBron, Luke Kennard, and Marcus Smart doing heavy lifting, looked like the team in the driver's seat. And when the game got tight, when Houston needed KD to stabilize the offense, Durant looked like he was stuck in the same endless loop we watched for years. Great talent, great shot maker, but when the defense loads up and asks him to become the full organizer, everything starts getting shaky. This is where it gets dangerous, because the Lakers were not throwing some genius defensive scheme at him nobody has ever seen before. They weren't reinventing basketball. They were sending help, they were showing doubles, they were crowding his space, they were making him make decisions. That's it. And somehow that was enough to turn one of the greatest scorers ever into a player looking for help, forcing passes, stepping into bad possessions, and coughing the ball up at the worst possible moments. That can't happen if you're supposed to be the driver of a championship team.
One of the biggest differences between the CBA and today's NBA and the past is the involvement of the second apron, which is a higher salary threshold that discourages a team from spending more once they exceed the general cap space. In retrospect, the second apron was implemented to prevent superstars from forming super teams and creating an uneven competitive field.
And that second half was ugly. We're talking about the so-called demigod scorer looking like a shell of himself when the Lakers started bringing pressure. One made field goal when the game was basically getting away. 1 of 5 shooting, nothing from 3, splitting free throws, 5 turnovers in a half. 5! That's not just a bad shooting stretch, that's losing command of the game. That is the moment where Barkley's old words start playing in the background. Bus riders can score when the ride is smooth. Bus drivers have to keep the ride from crashing. And that's the point people keep trying to avoid with KD. Nobody is saying he can't play. Nobody is saying he's not one of the most skilled basketball players ever. That would be ridiculous. But skill is not the same thing as command. Shot making is not the same thing as leadership. Being an automatic bucket is not the same thing as being the guy who lifts the entire group when the game gets ugly. Durant can be the cherry on top of a championship machine. We saw that in Golden State. But when he's asked to be the machine, the results keep looking very different.
I don't know why he's so angry all the time about at the generation of basketball, but I
I guess that's what it is.
Here's the part nobody is talking about. Houston did not bring in Kevin Durant just to be another scorer. They brought him in to be the answer. They moved pieces, changed the chemistry, and said this is the guy who can take us from interesting to championship level. In theory, replacing guys like Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks with Durant sounds obvious. More efficient score, more playoff experience, more star power. But in reality, what did Houston gain if the team chemistry drops, the seed gets worse, and the same playoff questions show up again? That's the problem. KD was supposed to solve their issues. Instead, he has solved none of their biggest questions.
Why did they have to come up with the BS rules, Bill? Because all these guys want to play together and not compete. How many great players do we need in one team? The Barkley said on his appearance on the Bill Simmons podcast.
The biggest question is still leadership. When things get tight, who organizes Houston? When the defense traps Durant, who makes the clean read? When the offense slows down, who gets everybody into the right spot? When emotions rise, who settles the team down? That's what leaders do. That's what bus drivers do. And when KD gets slight double teams, even just extra help shaded towards him, he too often looks like the process gets slow. He waits a split second, he lets the defense load up, the ball sticks, the whole team gets stagnant, and then suddenly Houston is playing accidental basketball.
They made up these rules. These young people, well, if I had $1 for every time I heard the second apron, why did Adam Silver have to put the second apron in? Because LeBron wanted to get all of his guys together. KD wanted to go play with the Warriors. Wait, y'all don't want to win a championship and compete against each other?
This is where young fans usually make a mistake. They see the jumper and think that automatically equals being the main guy. They see 30 points and think that means the team was led. But the playoffs expose the difference between scoring and control. A great scorer can get his numbers while the offense still feels lost. A true driver can control the game even if his shot is not falling. He can manipulate the defense, find teammates, punish doubles, and keep the rhythm alive. That is the difference between a weapon and a leader. And Durant keeps showing us he is more weapon than driver. Look at the difference between KD and someone like LeBron or Steph Curry in these same moments. For all of LeBron's flaws, if you send a basic double at him over and over, he is not going to keep making the same panicked passes. He will diagnose it. He will find the release valve. He will move the weak side defender. He will make the defense pay until it stops. Steph is different, but he also bends the floor without even touching the ball. His movement creates structure. His gravity creates confusion. Durant's scoring gravity is real, but when you ask him to turn pressure into organized offense for everyone else, that is where the drop-off appears. And this is not new. That is why the anti-KD crowd keeps getting louder every spring. We saw versions of this in Brooklyn. We saw versions of it in Phoenix. Now we're seeing it in Houston. When everything is right and the spacing is clean, Durant looks like a cheat code. But when the opponent gets physical, sends help, speeds him up, and forces him to be the decision maker instead of just a finisher, he can look shockingly uncomfortable. That is not a one-game overreaction anymore. That is a pattern. Here's the part nobody is talking about. The bus rider label hurts so much because it attacks the exact area Durant wants people to respect most. He wants to be seen not just as a scorer, but as a champion who can stand next to the greatest leaders ever. But every time one of these post-Golden State teams falls apart, it makes people separate the skill from the leadership. They say, yes, KD is incredible, but is he the guy who can lead you all the way? That separation is what Barkley was talking about. And if Houston goes out early, especially like this, that narrative is not going away. It will get louder. People will say Brooklyn failed, Phoenix failed, Houston failed. Golden State worked because Steph was driving. And whether that's fair or harsh, that's the argument KD's playoff resume keeps feeding. You can't keep giving people the same evidence and expect them to stop making the same case. And that's why this series matters more than a regular first-round matchup. It's not just Lakers versus Rockets, it's another referendum on KD's post-Golden State identity. Is he still capable of being the driver, or is he simply an elite passenger who needs the perfect system and the perfect point guard to win at the highest level? That is the uncomfortable question. So now the debate is right back where Charles Barkley left it. Was Chuck hating when he called out the bus riders, or was he telling the truth before everybody else wanted to admit it? Because Kevin Durant's jumper will always be beautiful, his talent will always be historic, and his scoring will always be respected. But when the game gets ugly and the bus needs a driver, Houston is still waiting for KD to prove he can take the wheel. And if he can't do it against the short-handed Lakers team, then maybe Barkley was not wrong at all. Maybe he was just early.